Welcome to the Cowboy Office Show, where you'll experience expert analysis and epic discussion on key pillars of the equine industry, including sports, business, hobby, and the horse lifestyle. Your co-hosts are Jody Brainerd and Brian Dykert, industry veterans with over 120 years combined living the cowboy lifestyle. The Cowboy Office Show will help you get involved, ask more questions, and create change. We'll keep riding for you as together we learn from the ride already ridden, learn to listen better to our horse, and make our industry better for all. Each episode will take a ride around the industry in less time than you can load the truck and trailer. Drop your email at cowboyoffice.com to receive updates and never miss an episode. Saddle up as we ride into today's show.
Oh, horse world, change is definitely here. Life after the fraternity is advancing fast. Opportunities for return and success are here for the sport. How do we set goals, manage those goals, decide to compete are all changing. Can anyone achieve it? Questions we're going to talk about. We have with us today one of the top all-time reining horse trainers and riders as we discuss change among our sport and how they manage these new dimensions. Ride with us by going to cowboyoffice.com, put your email in. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button on the platform of your choice. Welcome to the Cowboy Office. I'm Brian.
And I'm Jody. We got a great show for you today. I mean, I've been looking forward to this one. We want to welcome one of the best, and he's been our friend for a long time. I hate to admit how old we are, how long we've known this guy. But according to NRHA, the all-time leaders list published in June of 2024, we'd like to welcome Shawn Flarida, the number 2 all-time rider at $7.4 million, one of the few that has qualified every year for the Run for a Million finals. Shawn, glad to have you.
Hey, thank you for having me, Jody. Thank you for having me, Brian. I look forward to having a conversation with you guys.
I was laughing about this. I was thinking as I was going through kind of the script and some of the things that we were going to talk about. And Brian, like I said, I hate to admit how fast this time flies, but 30 or more years ago, I remember this. There's this little young guy that, had a pretty successful older brother, and he's thinking about maybe even showing the non-pro a little bit. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden it's, wow, 30 years goes by, right? And this guy's just stuck over $7 million in the bank. So I'd say the decision to be a pro is a pretty good one for you, bud.
Thank you. 30 years feels like a long time when you mention it all like that.
I remember Shawn when he was a youth. And it's probably because I judged him a ton of times when he was a long youth before he even did pro, before he even went pro. So anyways, that tells how old all of us are.
Oh,
so,
my goodness, yes. Right? Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun. But you know what? I know with the horse businesses, it's interesting. It seems like, we see all these huge dollar figures and all this kind of stuff, and people assume that it's a fantastic way to make a living, and it is. But, they don't. If you're on the outside looking in, you have no idea how hard work you have to go through to get to any degree of success in this business. And I know Brian and I have talked about this many times with the quality of the horses and how good you guys have gotten, that it ain't any easier. It's just paying a whole hell of a lot more money, but the workload's still the same. Would you agree?
It's extremely hard. And, there used to be, you go to the reining fraternity and you see 5 or 10 good or really special horses. Now you go there and you see 75 head of horses that can mark a 220. So our industry, just like what you're saying, it's changed. And I think we're breeding better horses. Obviously, horse trainers are better. The whole thing's evolved.
Leads us to our first big question. The Run for the Million has changed the industry in so many ways. But we want to focus on a couple key ones with you in particular, Shawn. We all 3 of us remember well when the fraternity guaranteed the 100,000. You were a youth kid. It still was a very big deal in the sport. And that was in the early 80s. Now our sport, and the Run for the Million's a big one. And the Run for the Million's got $1 million purse, paying $500,000 to win it, and 16 unique riders that all have to qualify, and they have to qualify way in advance. You're not talking about a week or a couple of days. You're talking about months and a year. Truly a huge different function, and you're one of a handful that has been in every finals so far. So the question really is, what does the Run for the Million mean to you as a pro and business guy?
For me personally, I love the competition. So, that just, with $1 million, it just makes it a more of an attractive situation. But at the same time, getting the horses to go compete at that level is very, very difficult. And then, you brought up, you can be qualifying a year before if you get in the top 5 of the $100,000 shootout in Vegas, or you could be 4 months before if you qualify in Arizona and Scottsdale before then. So your horse selection, what's available to you, and then your game plan of getting up there to it is a big thing. But I have conversations with those younger guys, and us three have known each other forever. And the Super Bowl of our event, and it still is in my mind, is the Reining Futurity in Oklahoma City that's coming up. But if you think about it from a business standpoint, like you just brought up the question, it really should be the Super Bowl. And that should be where my brain's wrapped around to go win that $1 million at the Run for $1 Million. So, I mean, these young guys, they're prepping for it, getting horses. I mean, that is their first thing in their thought process when they wake up in the morning. I want to go win that Run for $1 Million. So it has definitely changed the sport, and it's also definitely changed the way we think about it.
Well, elaborate on that just a touch, because talk about a futurity prospect. That would be mine and Jody's Reflex, and we spent a lot of years doing that.
Yeah.
That's a very different process than finding once you're qualified, that's step one. So you're qualified for the Run to the Million. But now making sure that your mount, how you manage a mount, how you select a mount, being an aged event horse that can mark 227 or better, that's what you got to go find, right? And then you got to put the business together to go with it. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Trying to find that horse right now. I mean, every person that makes that, there's 15 riders that get a go. And it's really, really unique, just like what you guys, it's a one horse, one rider, which I really, really like in that program. But trying to find that horse is really hard. I mean, I got notes. I go through horses. I watch those horses in Europe. I watch the horses in South America. I watch the horses in Canada. I watch them here to see if there's any horses in loose hands that can maybe step up and go to that direction. You think about some of the studs that are off breeding. Is there any fresh horses that are healthy that could maybe come back and go do it? Is there any mares that are being ixied in embryo that can come back and do it? It's very difficult. And then also too, with that Run for $1 Million, the crowd, the atmosphere, the setting, it's phenomenal and phenomenally loud. So, I mean, you got to have a horse that can withstand the cameras, the music, the lights, the everything. And, truthfully, there's some horses out there that, as you guys have crowed and trained, that can't. It's hard pressed to come up with 10 horses that are legitimately horses that can go mark above a 225 or 226 to be in that level. And then you put the human rider in there, and all of our heirs, we drop it down pretty fast.
Yeah, there's no question about that. We've had significant discussion about that. And, the days of the old world champion open horses where a guy used to have to go to 40 horse shows is over with. Now we don't do that anymore. But we just talk about, like, when you talk about the Super Bowl of the sport, probably should be that. I think probably from outside recognition and from an outside sponsorship standpoint, that's probably the case, because the Run for $1 Million, I mean, of course, you've got the movie stars, and you got the backing, the financial backing out there. It probably is much more higher profile to outside people than even our futurity is, which is still, like I said, our best sport. I love the futurity because it's a 3-year-old, right? Not an aged horse. But, I just sit back here and I look at this thing, and I think, $500,000 used to be career earnings to guys like my age, you know what I mean? And now it's one horse show. I mean, it was like back when you were winning $5,000 at a time. It takes a long time. It takes a long time to win $250,000. Oh, here it's like, yeah, we just walk in here. I got a nice horse, so I'll just go win me $500,000 and I'll, step out of here. But I wonder, if the aged event horses, if a guy would, because this thing pays so much money, do you think, Shawn, in the future, do you think that somebody may actually, I mean, it's hard not to be greedy when you want to put money in your pocket, but do you think somebody might actually be taking some of these nice older horses and maybe skipping those NRBC and Derby shows to be able to try and get qualified for one?
Yeah, for sure. I think, it was an interesting question, or maybe the way Brian worded it. As a business plan, what does that change? And it goes right back into where you're going with that. I had 2 3-year-olds this year that fell just a little bit behind, back during the days where we would earn $3,000 and $5,000 in Willowbrook, Pennsylvania, running for those opens. We had to go do it. Now I took those 3-year-olds, I put them back, train them a little bit different. If they come on as 4-year-olds, great, go show them. But if not, there's so much money. And they're really good horses, save them horses and let them horses grow. The other thing I think is our reining horses, our value of those horses have stayed strong and stayed up. So it's allowing those owners to do that. But finding horse quality and horse power, it all goes back to that. So you want to do, if you got one that's got special talent, just wait and just be patient where, maybe 20 years ago or 15 years ago, we didn't wait.
Yeah, that's $1 million statement, the wait. The ability to take the time is a big piece that's changed because we couldn't wait because you only had one shot. You had to do everything you could, and everybody did everything they could. Now you have a different opportunity. That's what you're saying, right?
Sure, for sure. When you think about, if you look at other sports, maybe such as dressage and some of those things, a lot of times those horses, they're maybe not mature, not really going on to be successful until they're 12, 13, 14, 16. I think that's going to come with our sport. It's going to come around because it's just a matter of time for some non-pros do that.
Well, talk for a minute because you did something this year. This is straight off of Facebook. We just brought it up, and this was fantastic. And it was off the interview that you did, but you and Spooks Gotta Whiz. And so talk for a minute because Spooks Gotta Whiz, most all of us know well about him. You and him won about everything there was. You won gold medals that no longer exist anymore because the sport has changed that whole aspect. So those don't even exist. But the fact that Whiz is a 17-year-old stud, age 2, he'd been in the breeding barn for the last 10 plus years, right? So talk about, one, how you and Michelle would have come together and made the decision to try it. And then 2, what does that look like until you have to make a decision that he can come back and let's go versus maybe he can't?
Yeah. Well, first we could spend a week talking about Spooks Gotta Whiz. I rode 2 great horses in my lifetime. I've actually rode more than that, but 2 horses that probably changed the sport, him and Wimpy's little chick. But Spooks Gotta Whiz, he's a friend. And to start the conversation, I actually asked for him from Michelle Kimball, the very first one for Megan. And she said, nah, I don't want to. He's breeding. And, everything's comfortable. And I don't think I want to do it, Shawn. I said, well, if he ever comes available, let me know. Well, and things kind of rolled around this year. And I didn't really have a horse that was really special or sticking out. And she called me on the phone. And she said, would you consider? I said, oh my God. I said, consider it. That's a silly question. I said, when can I sit on him? And so it just kind of rolled from there. And obviously, he's an older horse. He's 17, but he's in great shape. His legs are clean, but he'd been breeding however many mares. He breeds a lot. But Brian and Jody, he come to the farm. And the first week, I rode him and I was probably more of in all of him than maybe being a horse trainer, which I should have been probably more professional. But I rode him around, but most of the time and petted him. But at some point, Michelle come out, my wife, and said, you guys really should go to work. So then I had to kind of get busy. But when I got busy, he come right to the party. He went to work, it's like no big deal. But then, I told Michelle, I said, don't tell nobody. I said, I don't want the pressure of having to say yes, and because I was really worried that, that it could fail. She was great, meaning Michelle. She said, he owes me nothing. You owe me nothing. And it can be nothing but positive. So it was awesome. But, for a horse to come back 17 years old and he goes and, I thought it was awesome. He was just, I didn't get maybe as long to prepare him as I would like. I think I had 8 weeks. I picked him up there right after the Derby. But if that horse actually had 6 months or 8 months, like most of those other horses to prepare, shoot, I don't know, what it would have been like. That first stop, he runs in there, he buffed his little butt. He was really, really good. Obviously, the one right rollback, he couldn't get through there. He's just wearing out on me. But I think you're going to see more and more horses like that go. I mean, that horse, he got retired at an early age, got done winning the gold medal there in France for me. I guess I'm really happy about that because he went and produced a bunch of horses that I won money on. But, when you get to crawl back on one of those horses as a horseman, I missed him a lot.
Yeah, right.
And I think so did the public. I mean, we love to watch greatness, and that horse is great.
Oh, there was more talk and chatter about you and Spooks Gotta Whiz this year with the Run for the Million than anybody. And by far, and we got to watch it this year because they didn't black it out in the States. Yes, the crowd went nuts because they loved every part of all of that. What you're talking about, and I think it's a huge testament, because Jody's dad is one of many famous quotes that he always made was, more great horses have made horsemen than horsemen have made great horses. And that's exactly what you're talking about, is your respect and admiration. But Spooks Gotta Whiz stepped up to the plate. That's really what you're saying, right?
Yeah. He did, most definitely. And I had to be careful that I kept treating him like he's a superstar, and he is. Right. But at the same time, I'm the coach. So, sometimes you got to step on those ball players' toes and say, hey, go to work. That's never been the case with that horse, though. He just goes and does his job. He tries his tail up. I just brought a smile to my face. But, as a horseman, too, when he comes back in, it's amazing how your internal mind changes. I mean, he almost can read my. He truly can. And those horses like that, they're just so, they're just, I could talk for hours about that. And can't thank Michelle enough for allowing me to bring him back out and demonstrate him to the public, because so many people hadn't got to see him so-called live. It was amazing how many people would come up and just touch him to get a feel of it, which I do too. But, obviously when it comes real life, real time, you go, wow, this is really cool.
Well, yeah. Now what you're also talking about is a testament to the continual evolution of the sport. The fact that many people that are active and enjoying all the aspects of the sport today weren't around 10 years ago. That's a big one. Right. And so very important point up that a lot of today's people hadn't seen him in person.
Yeah.
And I think that we, so much of this, I was kind of laughing about that. Hey, they don't want to go up there and touch you. They want to touch the horse, right? So, I mean, that kind of tells you where people's minds are. But, everybody has this, and from the dawn of horse trainers, I'm sure that this has been the case, but, everybody wants to give that guy the credit. It's the trainer that gets all the credit for doing this stuff. It doesn't make any difference if you had one and trained for 2 days and you go win the futurity, you did it, right? And it's like, hell no, you know what I mean? It's like, it's that livestock it's the livestock that does it. It's not that rider, because, we used to think that there was back, Brian, in our day, heck, there was, 3 guys who probably had good enough horses and enough understanding to win the futurity. And if it was, Bill or Dick or Bob, one of those guys, and now there's 100, right? I mean, there's 100 guys. If they got the right horse, they can win the horse show. So, I think that the public is now beginning to think in those terms now, that at least that horse is the equal partner, and it's not all that rider. I mean, God bless you guys and for getting the credit for it, but I mean, that the livestock is the reason you make the money you make.
Well, it is interesting when I would ride that horse around, the respect of the other horsemen. They would watch him or touch him or comment on him or come up close to him. And, you just, great horsemen admire great horses. I was fortunate enough to have him there, but it was fun for me, but it was fun even for the other competitors. They would come up and see him, and this is unique, truly is unique.
I think it's a great testament to where we've reached, the spot and the elevation that we've made it to the sport. That's the big testament that we're talking about, which is the whole piece of change. I want to talk about, when we want to get your take on this, and Jody and I have beat this one around for a while. This is the Run for the Million is a rider qualified event. That in itself is unique. the fact that you have to do it way in advance, months and a year. But the one rider, you can pick your horse up to draw time, right? I mean, at some point, I don't know. When do you have to tell Run for the Million what horse you're riding? When do you have to do that?
So the day before that Run for a Million, actually that Friday, we actually have a trot test, and we can trot as many horses as we wish, or up to 3 or whatever. And then we have to decide. Yeah. So I actually had till 24 hours before, and I'd pretty much made all my decision by then, way before that. But yeah, that's when everybody has to make their decisions.
Right. So take the one rider, one horse, and all the goodness that comes with that, which gives you time to manage and make decisions for everybody's interest. Put that in the rest of aged events in today's time, because we still, in the sport of reining, allow one rider to ride up to 3 horses. When you talk about aged events, here's my point. I think we should be looking at our industry in a very different light and starting to make more structural changes that are in benefit to everybody along the way. And the big one is this one, because at the top of the sport, one rider, one horse versus one rider up to 3 horses. And we're interested in your view to that. Is 3 horses still serving our industry okie dokie, or is it time to look at that different?
I think it is time to look at that. I don't know if I would be willing, going from 3 to 1 feels like a lot right at the moment, but maybe we should go to 2. And we always talk about we need new faces in the finals, or we need, more people in the finals, different faces and stuff like that. I think if you limit it to 2 horses rider, or if you went to your and Jody's maybe idea where you got 1 horse to rider, it would definitely change things, and it definitely open up so many doors. And the other thing too, there's hard to get the horses, just like what we're talking about from the horsepower. So if we did do that, that would loosen the belt and let a few more of those horses float around and get in other hands. And I don't think that would be a bad idea. I would be a very strong yes on going to 2 horses for sure. 1 horse scares me a little bit, but just because maybe you guys just threw it at me, I haven't given it a lot of thought. But 2 horses for sure, I could do that tomorrow for sure.
We've talked about this like crazy, and I'm glad to hear you be open-minded and come back with that, because we've made, 3 horses back in the day. It was that somebody just decided that that's what we were supposed to have, and it stayed that way. So, and I know, both through showing and through my work on the judges committee, I've seen a lot of times you guys will get, top 20 riders will have 3 back, not so much anymore because the quality's so good, but heck, even 10 years ago, you'd have 3 back in the finals, and I'll promise you didn't want to have to get all 3 of them ready, because that bottom end one, you'd have rather just said, well, I got him qualified and I got to show him, but I'll promise you'd have been a lot happier if you'd only had 2, and we've done some study on that from the judges' standpoint. And, I don't think, I know your numbers from a trainer standpoint would not go down. I know they wouldn't. You'd still have the same number of horses. I think what it would do, it would let Sam have a better horse. You know what I mean? Or, we train right there, you say, hey, look, I can only take 2, but you know what? Here's a damn good one. And we're going to level 3 with this guy. And I think that the quality would just go through the roof across the whole horse show.
And I think you're 100% correct. And I can also tell you, with the Run for a Million, the 1 horse, 1 rider, what I have figured out is your brain will lock in with that horse no matter what. And that horse and you will get really, really with each other, and it only drives up the talent and the performance. So it's very hard. I've made the finals on 3, and just like what you said, it's very difficult to get your brain to go with 3 different horses in the finals. There's 30 head of horses, 10 horses between you if you're lucky. Your brain just isn't that quick to rebound or continue on with the thing. And if you study it from a competition standpoint, you'll have 1 high, 1 low, 1 middle. It's just the way it is. So obviously I would go with 2 horses on a drop of a hat, and I think it would be good for our industry. And I agree with you too, Jody. I don't think the training numbers of your horses would go down. Our sport is so strong right now. Those 2-year-olds in the barn, there's 3-year-olds in the barn, and there's already the aged horses and the 4-year-olds. You're getting ready for next year's derbies and spring stuff. So, I mean, your training barn is going to be fine. And I do think after Spooks Gotta Whiz had went to run for a million, he showed that he could still perform at the age of 17 and do really well. I think you're going to see other guys bring horses in and come back and do that too. So, I mean, I think your business, program and plan would be fine. But I think the 2 horses would be great. The 1 horse, you guys would have to talk me into and kind of show me a little bit more of it. But I'm not opposed to it. That scared me.
Well, I think that there's 2 things. Let me show you guys this, and I hear you, and I think it's a phenomenal subject. I want to show you this one first. This is last year's 2023 top 20 level 4 riders for the year, okay? What this is showing in the average is 15. It shows how many horses per rider they showed last year to make the top 20 list. And the average is 15. And the maximum is 24. And so the 2 riders that showed more horses than anybody else was actually Cade, Fernando, and then Fapani was right behind.
Cade and Fernando.
So you were number 11 last year. You showed 14 horses last year to make the top 20 list. It's an interesting piece, but hang on a minute because I want to show you this one as well. This is very fascinating when we talk about this because this is only a thought. I haven't put enough work into it. My gut tells me business would increase if you guys would consider changing at the aged event level of our sport. And this is an interesting one because this is the exact same list. Top 20 riders, level 4 last year, 2020, number 11 at 172,000. But what's interesting, now you got to remember, right there it is, 15.1 is the average because there's the horses shown per person and the money cumulative per rider. $4.6 million, and you guys averaged 15 horses. So that's what you're all doing. And it's just an interesting piece when you then look at, especially, I think there's 2 parts, because one of the common denominators that you guys all have is the sportsman competitiveness. Every one of you wants to win. We all get that. Phenomenal. It's about how do we set it up so that actually you made reference, your ability to mentally as well as physically sync with your partner, the horse. And you said it, that's one of the things you've learned through the Run Through the Million as opposed to the ways we've done it for 30 plus years. And I think it opens the door for very interesting opportunities on how we could continue to advance. And if we all want to build purses and have more people enjoy this sport, then the Run for the Million is proving the fact that an audience will engage, wants to engage, and there's more there than 14 days of 14 hours of sorting through horse after horse after horse. So that's kind of the bigger part of that conversation, right?
I agree 100%. And I think, I'm just sitting here thinking too, if we did that, it's going to help our younger horse trainers, our people that are obviously struggling getting your level 2, your level 3 horses and getting up there and going. It's going to make the playing field more level than it actually is today. If I'm correct in the way I'm thinking about it.
Yes. Well, I would tell you this. If somebody asked me they wanted to get into the reining horses, I would tell them to buy a nice horse and find a level 1 or 2 rider and get hooked up in that program. Because if you want to earn your way to where you want to go and figure some things out, money-wise, business-wise, and the numbers say it, your return on cost to play is way more significant in the level 1 and 2 at the moment because the door is more open. You guys at the top at 3 and 4, everybody knows all the stuff, and all of you are trying to do the exact same thing, which is have the stars align at the right time and ring the bell for the big one. Is that not correct? I mean, there's not a big unknown.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know. I mean, obviously you and Jody judge. I'm not sure there's any difference between 3 and 4. I think they're the same horses. It's just like if the stars align.
There isn't any. I would tell you, I say this based on data. I would tell you that for the sport, there is no difference between level 3 and 4. and why we even keep doing it. Could you build a better purse for level 4? Yes. Get rid of 3. What do you need 3 levels right now? 1, 2, and 4. That's what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're 100% correct.
Yeah, no, there's no question about that. And we've had this discussion, Brian and I have talked about it. We've talked about it on the show. We've talked about it, together. And, there's so many things that the structure from the money, level 4 needs to be, it's the showpiece of everything. I mean, that's the top end. It is what it is. That's it. So the money structuring is easily be done. You can take full enrollment money and you can, here, I'm going to allot this much here. One of my biggest deals with those level 1 and 2 riders, it's not maybe that those guys don't have the talent. They get the right horse. Even a hell of a level 2 rider can win the futurity for sure. But what I would tell you is that, and I've told Brian this many times, is like, we don't give it a chance to have our horse trainers have enough common sense. You got that level 1 and level 2 rider, and maybe those guys they've got that 218 horse that maybe they can get that level 1 check as a 3-year-old, or they got a 219 horse. And they know that I got to get all of him to get that. And what I want to do is I want to take my money, my entry fee money, and I would like to run it at that level 1 and level 2. And if I want to run at the level 4, then I can pay more and I can go show against you. But if I've got my 218 right now, what I have to do is I just have to walk up to you and give you $1,000 of it. And I may as well just give it to you before I even go walk in the show pen, because I can't mark any more than that. Right. But that's the way that it's structured right now. And I think the prize money, the payments need to be structured before this happens, so that at least people, if I have this much money, I would like it to go here, because I can't compete there because my car is not fast enough.
For sure. If you think about NASCAR, there's a reason why those guys have qualifying the week before for that pole position. It's the same thing in this case. I think them horses come in brackets. I think you got the 215 to 218. You got the 218 to 222. And then you got those horses that are just freaks, and they go from 224 to infinity. But there's 3 different brackets of horse. And, if you go to the futurity and your horse is somewhere between that 215 and 218, and you're only a level 4 or level 3 rider, you're in trouble already before you leave. You're sucking that horse's energy, everything he's got, and some horses can take that. And then other horses, they got to come home and sleep for 6 months. If there was other things that we could do, we could be better managers of our equine friends.
There's a big statement.
Yeah, that's huge. And coming from you, that will resonate. There'll be a lot of people listening to that. So awesome.
What a great opportunity in today's time, because that opportunity did not exist not that long ago. And that's our point about looking at our sport structurally in a different light. And can it structurally be changed so that it will benefit all those involved? The answer is yes. Very slow and not doing much as far as change. And some of our age events and what you are talking about is emphasizing that fact.
And I think Jody had a very good point. He was talking about it from a rider standpoint, but think about it from an owner standpoint. We got to take care of those owners that are investing in our horses and investing in our horse training. We got to put them in a position to have success. And that is one way of doing that, because once they have a little bit of success, they're only going to further the horse's success and our horse trainer's success. So, we got to look at it a little bit further and see if we can do stuff to help that.
Yes, of course. And I think that there's an opportunity in our sport that we used to dream about. One is from the business standpoint, because can people come into this sport from a business perspective and enjoy the business? That would be similar to what racehorses have been doing for a couple hundred years. Could they be doing that with reining horses in today's time? The answer is yes. Fair return on that from a business standpoint, or can you at least kind of pay your way and or even minimize the expense? The answer is yes, and that's what you're talking about, Shawn. Like where we've come from, and that's what Jody was making reference to, because information is a positive thing. So once we know what we've got in horsepower, what we've got to do from a sport is allow the structure to be such so that you can play where you belong. The leveling, which has been done primarily on riders' earnings, I would tell you is not serving the industry well. It's archaic. And so, yes, we know where it came from. Yes, it did its purpose at its onset, but it's time to look at it and evolve that accordingly. That would be one. And then two is the evolution of the horsepower. And then three, and we won't get on this one, but is the officiating thing, because all of that needs to be moving. When you talk about three phases of horsepower, the 15 to 18 horse, the 18 to 21, 22 horse, and the 23 and above, the freaks. Well, you said it at the onset. Not too long ago, there was 3 or 4 of those freaks. Now there's 50 or 60 of them, right?
Yep, for sure.
It's just the rest of the equation. So,
yeah.
Oh, one of the greatest weapons in the world to watch. We've watched it the last couple of years in a row is the qualifier at the Cactus. I mean, that run for $1 million qualifier. You talk about a hell of a reining. Good God Almighty! It's just one after another. Here they come, and I mean, and every one of them walking through the gate can mark a 4, or a 222. Yeah. Every one of them. I mean, they can, and they just go up from there. So I mean, someone don't get showed, maybe don't do that, but I mean, every horse in that pen is capable. It's just like, holy crap! Here's 50, 60, 70 head of them that are like, really? I mean, and I'm just like, I am so glad I haven't got to try and find something to compete with this stuff anymore. It's like, your job it's a tough one, but I agree with you. There's ways, I think, that because of the way that it's structured, Shawn, too many good horses getting gone through is not the right term, but I mean, probably horses are maybe overtrained because you haven't got any choice. You know what I mean? You have to mash and mash because if I can't go compete. But if that structure was different, so that 218 horse had a possibility to go run against his peer group, then maybe by golly, that horse we wouldn't have to try to train him to mark a 22 on him that he's not hardly capable of doing. So, I mean, these are great conversation. Yeah. Makes me happy.
Let me show you guys something, because this is again a shift in the industry. These are scores, and this is score averages. And you got to remember, everything at the Cowboy office we do is level 4. It's open aged event competition. We do look at level 1 through level 4, but these numbers are level 4 only. And what this is looking at, this is this year, 2024. So the only thing that's not in here yet is the reining futurity coming up. But if you take the rest of it and the point at the futurity versus derby in our industry, and Jody, you'll love this part because we used to talk about this years ago, because life after the futurity, what did it mean? We're there. The sport is there, and it's the distinct difference of building the horsepower. And so these are the numbers that it takes to make it in the sport today. So the derby is on the left-hand side. Average, when you put all the derbies in 2024 together, it took a 219.5 to make either the finals or paychecks. Average. High score to make cuts and paychecks is 225. High score overall in any given age event was 231.5. That's this year. Last year was a 232, I think. When you look at futurities, it's one notch below that. It's a 216.5 to make cuts or paychecks, and fraternities are still a little bit early because I think the NRHA and the numbers are going to help with this a little bit. 222.5 high score to make finals, and 227s right now is high score of any given fraternity. And the point to that, which goes directly to purse money available, and then I want to show you one more, because this one is interesting too. This is how fast the sport's moving. This is the number of aged events, okay? Level 1 through 4, open aged events, 2023 versus 2024. Last year, there was 10 events, productions, in aged events inside those 10. This year, there's 15 shows, productions, whatever you want to call them, and 38 aged events. Now, that's doing both. That's looking at fraternities and derbies. But in 1 year's time, you're talking about a 50% increase in show production, 100% increase in aged event, which is going to if you remember this one, when it is top 20 level 4 money earners 2023, 4.6 million out of a total of 24.5 million in the entire sport. So, which is right at 19%. 19% of all available purse money in the sport of reining is in level 4 open. It's true. What is 2024 going to show us? I expect that to be significantly higher, which all of that goes to exactly what we're talking about. And Shawn, I think that your reflex on the let us try 2 first is a great one, because Jody's been on that one. Jody has said it for years that we need to go to 1 rider, maximum 2 horses, and then keep going. And I've been on the thing that we only need 3 levels, not 4. And so could we restructure that purse and it's more return for everybody? Yes.
For sure. For sure.
Yep.
I think the 2 horse thing, I think I like that. Yeah, I like that.
Well, and there's another thing, and I'll just throw this in here to get your opinion. I know that like at time-wise, we're good, but I've told Ben on this show before too, and what the hell is the difference between a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old? I mean, so why all of a sudden can't that aged horse go compete? And I think that, people are worried about that, but you may have like a nice little 9-year-old gelding, and maybe he at one point in his career was that 222 horse. But say the last 10 runs that this horse had, if we keep a record of that, he's in that 17 to 18. That's where he's at right now, because he's 9 years old and he's still a nice horse. But then why can't that horse be marketed to somebody that can afford him? Because you know what I mean? Maybe we take an average of his last 10 runs and we drop him into that 15 to 18 category. And he still gets to go show at the Derby for somebody that can't spend $250,000 on an aged horse. I think that, hell, you're saying 4 to 7. It's like, who thought of that, right? I mean, let's go. What's the difference, right? 4-year-old, go on. Any aged horse, go show.
I don't think we need an end number on that Derby. It don't have to be 4 to 7. It don't have to be 4 to 8. Leave it go into infinity. Those horses will tell us when we're done. They truly will. And just like what you say, we got someplace we got to take care of our owners and their investment. And you know what? After that horse is 7 years old and now for that Derby, I mean, I hate to say this out loud, but his value is going to plummet. It's going to go down at least 30%. And only because he had a birthday? It doesn't make any sense. His talent didn't drop. He's still a great horse. He's big, he's strong, he's still stopping. But you're going to tell me now he's 8 years old that he's less, he's still a great horse, Shawn, and he's worth less money. It doesn't make any sense. So I think you're 100% correct, Jody. I think we need to continue and allow these horses to all be successful and famous.
Tell me this, you just brought up an interesting point, and we've casually talked about this. As a sport, structurally, we could have fraternities, we could have 4-year-old stakes, and then derbies, which is 5 till whenever you don't want to. It would just keep that door open that if you can play, if you think you can play and you got your ducks done, all you got to do is enter up, get qualified, you can do. But that's what you're talking about. And wouldn't that be fascinating?
Yeah. You know, who wouldn't want Michael Jordan playing basketball on their team for 5 games?
Right.
He could get ready for 5 games. He can't get ready for 60, but he could get ready for 5. Right. And that's what we're talking about. And the same thing with Spooks Gotta Whiz. We're taking care of these horses. I mean, them horses, when I get off of them, they get ice, they get acupuncture, they got chiropractors that come and work on them, they get massages. I mean, we're taking care of them horses better than we take care of ourselves, and rightfully so. But with all that being said, these horses, like Spooks Gotta Whiz, when he come back here, he would actually meet me at the stall to get ridden. They have so much human interaction. And then when we so-called retire them or they make brood mares or studs, they don't get that saddle time. They don't get the person that brushes them or washes them. Them great ones miss it. They do. Those great ones want our attention. They truly do. So we need to give it to them. We need to be respectful of what their needs are too. So, I mean, let them horses that want to go be show horses, let's let them be. Let them be horses.
Open the door and let them be. And there comes the return from the owner, because they would actually have more opportunities as well.
Correct. Correct, for sure.
No, I hear it. Well, gentlemen,
Gentlemen,
what a dynamic conversation, huh?
it's
It
been
was an
great, and I
honor. It
can't
was an
wait.
honor.
I'll promise you the feedback is going to be really fun on this one. You know what I mean? It really will, and we'll hear all kinds of stuff. Sean, you'll have to let us know. You know, just from a conversation standpoint. You know, when people come up with, because they'll watch this. You know, you haven't got every client in your barn will turn this on because they'll want to see you. You know, go through this grinder, but. Yeah, let us know. Give us the feedback on it, because these are some great ideas. And it is so, you know, this is a self-serving industry. I've said this many, many times. And, you know, we bitch is a strong word, but we bitch like crazy because we think, you know, you can slap somebody in the head with a really good idea and it never happens. And because of the way this association, it's the way the structural and the management is, the board of directors it's a hard position because you know, it's a non-payer and you got to work your tail off. And, you know, most of the time, the people that actually go on the board there's some influence by, you know, if it's a trainer or whatever. So you need to get on the board because everybody wants what's best for themselves. But sometimes the overall industry, you know, we talk about, you know, you want 2 horses. There's going to be guys out there, oh, hell no. You know, they'll think that they're going to lose training horses and they'll fight for 3. And it's like, you got to look outside the box, because if you can, then it makes it way better for everyone. But, you know, sometimes getting those points of views across is a difficult thing. But when you got guys that have won $7 million saying it's a good idea, it helps.
And it definitely is. And those guys got to open their brains up. I mean, this sport, we've been in existence for 55 or 56 years, which is the same length as the NFL football. NFL obviously attracts a whole lot more people, but we could do a whole lot better for ourselves if we think it through a little bit.
Yeah, but sure. I hear you. And we've used that type of analogy a lot in our time. And what has the run for the million done? Proven a number of things that we all talked about, dreamed, and most of us were pretty reluctant to try. Change is the piece that puts everybody on their heels just a touch. So what we've got to do is try some things, because the worst case with trying is learning that it didn't work. Okay, sure. So then you change again. I mean, that's what we've got to get ourselves from a sport. And I agree with you, Shawn. Of many things that the run for the million continues to prove, the sport of reining is exciting. It's not only the sport of reining, but I think cow, horse, and cutting is right along with it. And all of them are advanced cowboy sport disciplines that is doing something in the sports space that I think we could way set ourselves apart. But I am proven that and it will attract an audience. It can attract an audience, and the audience is more than willing to support it. We're only at the beginning of what that could look like. So the fact that we're the same age as the NFL, we could learn many of those lessons, including in officiating, because the NFL and officiating is way more advanced than the officiating in our sport. And I would tell you that our officiating is one of the spokes that needs serious attention, because it's the accuracy. It's not that they're not trying, it's the accuracy. And we'll talk about it some other time, but I think you make another very powerful statement, because our sport could and should be on a similar, if not equal platform, because today's culture and society I think they're yearning for it. And the run to the million has proven it. And if you take entertainment, like what Taylor's been doing with the Yellowstone, it's one of the most watched things in the last 20 years. So you can't tell me that the lifestyle and what all that means isn't important to people. It is, right?
It's nuts. I mean, I go to that run for a million and we get to meet a lot of them people and sign some autographs. There's people that I've never met that come here from Springfield, Ohio, right here in my old hometown. I never met them. They come all the way out there to Las Vegas to watch. And I bet I've met 10 people like that.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, where are you from? Oh, we live right where you live. It's crazy. So everything that you're saying is 100% correct. 100% correct.
Well, said it has been great. And, you know, Shawn, you've been a treat, and we have enjoyed the heck out of it. I tell you how thankful we are that you agreed to come on here with a couple old guys and wrestle around with us a little bit over some difficult questions. But we appreciate your time, your expertise, your insight, like I said, we're so happy to have your opinions. You weren't afraid to say them. So I love that fact, but we would like to wish you great success for the rest of the year. Hope you have a great futurity, and it's a great industry. And thank you so much. And I will tell you, everybody watching, let us know, give us some feedback. Until next time, stay in the middle.
Thank you so much. We do wish you the best with the fraternity coming up. We wish you the best in everything. We wish you, your family, and all your horses the best always, and can't thank you enough. Your insight's been absolutely valuable. I knew it was going to be great. Appreciate your time. We know how busy everybody is. So have a great fraternity. We'll be watching. We'll keep the stats. We will connect Shawn and his public connection things. You don't have to go. Great that people from Springfield are going to Vegas to watch you, but if you want to get in touch with Shawn, we'll make it a little bit easier. Remember to go to cowboyoffice.com, drop your email in, join us on this ride. Horses are good for people. Until next time, enjoy the ride. Shawn, thank you.
Today's episode is brought to you by 40 Productions in cooperation with the Consultment Agency, a full-service agency that helps bring forward-thinking equine brands into the 21st century using digital skills and services such as website development, graphic design, social media, and media production such as the podcast you're consuming here today.